All right, now we're going to talk about example 20. Suppose we are interested in how weight gain in rats is affected by a source of protein, so either beef, cereal, or pork, and by level of protein, whether it's high or low. Suppose there are 60 rats available for this experiment. Okay, so for A, what are the factors? Again, those are basically the two variables we're going to be looking at. Okay, so the factors here are going to be source of protein, okay, and then also the level of protein. We're talking about high or low. All right, the levels, that's kind of how we're going to break down this variable. So for the source, we have a couple different sources. So list it for us: beef, cereal, and pork. So 3 different levels there. And then for the level of protein, there is high and low. Okay, so those are our different levels. There's 5 different levels. So then how many treatments are there going to be? Again, if we look at, like if you needed to make a table for this, 3 rows and 2 columns, we end up with 6 treatments. Just multiply them together. Okay. Okay, so we have 6 treatments. We have 60 rats, and so you have 6 like groups essentially. How many rats are going to be in each one? And for 6 groups, 60 rats, we're going to do 10 rats at a time. So 6 groups, 10 rats. Okay, so outline an appropriate experimental design. All right, so this we're going to actually be able to label everything, the number of rats, like the number of subjects that we're assigning, and then the different treatments. Okay, we have them all listed here. So, all right, let's go with, we have 60 rats. Oops. Okay, so are we blocking on anything in this case? Are we going to separate them based on any characteristic we know about the rat before we assign them to groups? No, we're not going to block them on anything. So this is what this is called, is a completely randomized design. We're not separating them, we're not blocking them on anything. We're just going to take our 60 rats, 60 rats and randomly assign them to the 6 treatments. Okay, so we will randomly assign, here are randomly assigning. We can call it group 1 or treatment 1, where we'll just label them. So we can say they're going to have beef as their source, and we can say it'll be low. And this is going to be 10 rats. And then we're going to do the same thing. Randomly assign 10 more rats to group 2. And we can do beef, but have it be a high level. And this was also another 10 rats right here. All right, randomly assign them to group 3, which we're done with the beef, so now we can do cereal. We can do low. And 10 rats are in this group. Randomly assign to group 4, which we'll just do cereal and high. Another 10 rats. So far we've got 40 rats assigned. 2 more groups. And you could have labeled these all, instead of group, you could have said treatment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Group, either way is fine. There's 6 treatments though. So now the last ones are pork We're going to do low 10 rats. And last one, randomly assigned to group 6. Pork with high level, and 10 rats went to this treatment as well. And what we're going to be looking at is comparing the weight gain in rats for these different randomly. So all of these we're going to compare. Compare the weight gain in rats. So a lot of times on like the AP exam, this would be sufficient. You could also write this all in a paragraph if you would rather write it in a paragraph rather than drawing out the design. It doesn't matter which one you do that. But a lot of times if you draw out this, then it's going to ask, then specifically state how you are randomly selecting or describe your randomization is what it'll probably say. So at the bottom here, I'm just going to go ahead and say how I would randomly assign these rats. Okay, and so you need to be very, very specific in how you would explain this so that somebody else could go and carry out the randomization for you. So let's go ahead and write this down. Okay. So first I would assign the rats numbers. And we can just say 01 to 60. And this is one way to do it. I'm going to use the graphing calculator to just randomly select 10 rats, different rats. Okay, you could also use the random digits table. You could, put the numbers in a hat and pull out 10. There's lots of different ways that you could do this. You could go to each rat and, there's 6 groups. You could roll a dice if they got a 1 and they go to group 1 until 10 have filled up group 1 and so on and so on. There's lots of different ways you could do that that are still correct. So it's just one way. I would use then a graphing calculator to randomly select 10 different numbers is important. Sorry, I erase this. 10 different numbers and assign those rats to group 1. I would then repeat this process 5 more times until all 60 rats have been assigned to the 6 groups. So that just describes how you're actually carrying out the randomization. So I'd assign the rats numbers 01 to 60. I would use the graphing calculator to randomly select 10 different numbers and assign those rats to group 1. You can be more specific. You could say I would use the graphing calculator, and we could put in using random integer function on the calculator. Okay. To randomly select 10 different numbers from 1 to 60. And really we could say I'd repeat this Do the same thing for group 2. Here, I'm going to say that. Group 2 to group 6. Maybe that's a little bit more clear, so you're just going to do it by group. Repeat it 5 more times until all the rats have been assigned to the 6 groups. So it just kind of demonstrates that you know how to randomly select. And again, you could do this in different ways. You could use the random digits table to select your rats, but that you just need to be specific and saying I'm going to use consecutive integers. When I get to the end of the row, I'm going to drop down to the next row and continue going until I have 10 different rats. You could also do something like rolling a dice. Go to each rat, roll a number, and then they're assigned to that group until you have 10 rats in that group, and then you would continue to roll the dice, so if you already assigned 10 rats to group 6 and you rolled another 6 on a dice, that you would roll the dice again to put them in a different group because that group is already full. So you do need to be very specific, probably more than you think is necessary would probably get you full credit on these types of problems. So be very, very specific on how you could do that. Okay? All right, thanks for listening.